My neighbor did something that completely changed how I see him. I was convinced he was a retired serial killer, and I had proof, or so I thought. His name was Mr. Harrison, and he lived in the quiet little house next to mine. He was in his late 70s, kept to himself, and his only visible passion in life was his garden. I'm not talking about a few tomato plants. His yard was a masterpiece. It was like something out of a magazine, with perfect rows of flowers, manicured hedges, and a lawn so green and flawless it looked like a carpet. He won the Neighborhood in Bloom award 3 years in a row. He was the most boring, predictable, sweet old man on the block. That's why it was so strange when he started digging holes. It began about 3 months ago. Every single night, between midnight and 2 in the morning, he would come out into his perfect backyard with a small, sharp shovel. He'd pace around for a bit, as if he was measuring something, then he would dig a precise, perfectly square hole about a foot deep. He'd place something inside, and then he'd fill the hole back up so carefully you could barely tell the grass had been disturbed. The first time I saw it, I was up late watching a movie. I thought it was just odd. Maybe he was planting a late-night moonflower or something. But then it happened the next night, and the night after that, a new hole, a new spot, every single night. My mind started to race. What on earth was he burying in his prize-winning garden? At first, I thought it might be pets. Maybe he ran a secret pet funeral home. It was weird, but not exactly scary. But then one night, I saw him carrying something in a thick burlap sack. It wasn't huge, but it looked heavy. He almost seemed to struggle with it before gently placing it in the hole. The sound it made when it landed was a soft, dense thud. My blood ran cold. That was not the sound of a hamster. My imagination went into overdrive. I started watching him from my bedroom window every night, hiding behind the curtains like a spy. Mr. Harrison, the quiet gardener, became the subject of my own private horror movie. I noticed his routine was always the same. He'd wear the same dark clothes, the same leather gloves. He was so methodical. This wasn't a hobby. This felt like a ritual. I started losing sleep. Every creak of my house made me jump. I started to think about all the people who had gone missing in our state over the years. Was Mr. Harrison a retired hitman, slowly moving his secrets to a new, unsuspecting location? I knew I couldn't go to the police. What would I say? My elderly neighbor is doing some late-night gardening and it's freaking me out? They'd think I was crazy. I needed proof. I needed to know what was in those holes. My paranoia finally peaked when he dug a hole right near the fence that separates our yards. I could almost see what he was putting in, but it was too dark. I decided I had to take action. The next day, I went online and ordered a motion-activated wildlife camera. It was small, weatherproof, and could record in night vision. It felt extreme, but my fear was even more extreme. When the camera arrived, I waited until Mr. Harrison went out for his afternoon walk. My heart was pounding as I snuck into my backyard and hid the tiny camera in the dense leaves of the big azalea bush that sat right on our property line. It had a perfect, unobstructed view of his entire lawn. I felt a weird mix of guilt and terrified excitement. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I just watched the clock, knowing the camera was out there, waiting. The next morning, I felt sick with anticipation. I waited until I saw Mr. Harrison leave to get his newspaper. Then I ran out, grabbed the camera, and rushed back inside, locking the door behind me. I plugged the memory card into my laptop, my hands shaking. The video folder popped up. There were 3 clips, all time-stamped around 1:30 a.m. I clicked on the first one. The video was grainy, black and white, but clear. Mr. Harrison walked into frame, just as I'd seen him do a dozen times. He had his shovel and a lumpy cloth bundle. He dug his usual perfect hole. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. He knelt down and gently unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a pale, round object. It was a wheel. He carefully placed the wheel into a small, custom-fit wooden box, set the box in the hole, and buried it. Then he did something I hadn't seen before. He walked to a different spot, a spot where I knew he'd dug a hole weeks earlier. He dug again and pulled up a similar wooden box. He brushed the dirt off, opened the lid, and lifted out another waxy-looking wheel. He held it up to his nose and took a deep, long sniff. A huge, blissful smile spread across his face. He looked completely at peace. He then carefully rewrapped it and carried it inside. I zoomed in on the video, squinting at the screen. The pale, waxy wheel he was holding so lovingly was a wheel of cheese. I was so confused I googled his name. It turns out my neighbor wasn't a retired killer. He's a world-famous cheese aficionado, an affineur, a person who ages cheese. And he moved to our specific neighborhood because our soil contains a unique microbe that is supposedly perfect for aging Gruyere. He wasn't burying bodies, he was burying cheese.